As a composer, there's nothing better than cracking open a sample pack and instantly feeling inspired. So when Grizzly Audio reached out, I did what I always do. I put it to the test, writing an entire cinematic score using only their sounds. I create music for film, TV, and games, and I help composers like you find tools that spark creativity. Alright, so taking a look at the track that we compose using the Grizzly Audio tracks. When you get the sample pack, it is essentially just a folder with subfolders of signatures, sounds, broms, pings, drones, booms, kicks, whooshes, etc. It's not set up yet as a full-on contact instrument. I don't know if that's something that the developers plan on doing in the future, but I actually kind of like packs like this sometimes a little bit better because it really forces you to kind of get creative. I come from an audio engineer background, mixing and things like that before I got into any kind of film scoring. So sometimes it's nice just to have a pack of samples that you can kind of pull in, manipulate. I essentially compose the entire track using only those samples. I basically did it one of two ways. So you'll either see just the audio files in the track, or if you do see any kind of like MIDI notes in there, it's basically going to be where I went in and used Logic Sampler. Of course, you could use Contact, Decent Sampler, whatever your sampler is of choice, essentially for the reason that I wanted to go in and kind of be able to manipulate that sound, maybe adjust the attack, release, maybe I wanted to blend the sounds, pitch it down, things like that. To me, kind of working within the just built-in Logic Sampler is a really nice, easy way to do that. Probably 60% of it, though, is just going to be audio files that I drag in. So we'll take a little time, go through some of the samples that I use, listen to some of the sounds, but for right now, let's just kind of go in and listen to the track that I composed using, again, only samples in this package. Again, for some of these, I ended up using the Logic Sampler for most of the triggered samples that I wanted to have and be able to play via MIDI or pitch down, play in different tones and different keys. So again, you can use whatever you like. You can use Decent Sampler or Contact. But with this, you know, kind of gave me a little bit more control over the sample. I could choose whether I wanted it to be just kind of like a one hit. So on some of the stuff like the hits, I wanted to be able to control whether it was a one shot or it was just a snippet that I wanted a quick cutoff time and attack. You can also go in when you're using things like Contact or the sampler to adjust attack and release. And then immediately play through the pitches really fast where you're not having to pitch up and down your audio. So a good example is something like this that I use for hit number 4, which is, you know, that's a one shot. But if I wanted the ending to be a little bit more staccato, depending on how long I stay on that note physically, depends on how much of the tail I'm going to get on the back end of the audio file. In our intro section, we had a little bit of a blend of just some different audio files. So coming in, we had our signature sounds, pretty heavy with those. Lots of reverb on some of these. All your pads and drones. I've got another kind of low pad that builds up in here. And the pack is really well organized as far as, if you go into something like a drone, it kind of lets you know, what key you're looking at. For some of them where you have like your pulses and rhythms, it's going to kind of go over the key. It's also going to give you the BPM that it was recorded in. Of course, you can kind of play around with it and stretch it out. There were a few of these that I did end up adjusting the length and duration or shortening the audio file so that it did match the 120 BPM that I was in for this particular session. I think one of my favorite things is the Brahms are just really kind of dark and nasty, and they just sound fantastic. So checking some of those out that I used. So let's dive into the pack a little bit and kind of explore just the different sounds that we've got. So we'll kind of take a tour through that. So we've got our signature sounds. Looking at, and this is probably my favorite, which is the Brahms. And this is why I think this pack is great for horror. You just get a lot of those really nasty, almost cello, really hearing the attack of the bow on the string type of Brahms sound. And then we have our ping section. This pack would also just be great to add texture within like a just regular horror movie score that you're working on if you just need something to kind of add bite or attack to certain parts. Let's check out our drones. That one's just got a ton of horror movie vibe. That's just awesome. The drones have a lot of great applications that you could use. I mean, there's not a lot of them, but again, you can kind of manipulate just being that raw audio files, kind of mangle them, manipulate them for what you want them to become. Let's check out our booms. Got a section of kicks, got 4 kicks. Hit section. Got our whoosh bangs. Downers. Let's see. Got a ton of transitions in here. Got our risers. And then pulses and rhythms. These are actually really good. I love these. I think this is a great pack for anybody wanting to compose trailer, but specifically tension, drama, and really kind of horror and maybe sci-fi type trailers. I will definitely find myself using this in future trailer projects and maybe even film scoring projects. I'd love to hear what you think. Would you use a pack like this in your own workflow? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to see future videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. You'll find the link for Grizzly Audio down below in the description.